वेलकम बैक टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ थॉट बिहाइंड थिंग्स। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद है एक बहुत ही खास मेहमान जिनको इंट्रोड्यूस कराने से पहले मैं आपको बता दूं कि दिस इज आवर सेकंड लास्ट एपिसोड। हमारा सीजन 2 जो है वो एंड हो रहा है ऑन वेडनेसडे, टुडे इज मंडे। तो विल बी डन विद 200 एपिसोड्स। बिग डील, डिड नेवर थॉट कि हम यहाँ तक पहुँचेंगे। बट इसी वजह से हम पिछले, आपने नोटिस किया होगा पिछले कुछ दिनों से जो है ना, वी रिकॉलिंग इन सम स्पेशल गेस्ट्स जो कि who are close to me, and I really wanted to sort of understand the thought behind their things and what they do, and for that, in the same breath, we have with us today Sarmad Ahsan. Ahsan. अस्सलाम सर, कैसे हैं आप? थैंक यू सो मच फॉर कमिंग इन।
थैंक यू। आप तो बहुत फ्लैटर कर दिया मुझे एकदम से।
नहीं, नॉट एट ऑल। सरमद इज एक्चुअली ही इज लीडिंग द प्रोडक्शन साइड ऑफ थिंग्स इन 18nine Media as well, which is our media company that hosts this podcast as well. इसी के साथ साथ he is one of the best motion graphics designers in Pakistan.
Thank you for saying that. I do not agree with it, but thank you.
How many motion graphics designers are there in Pakistan?
There are few. But जिस स्केल पे मैं अपने आप को वो कर रहा होता हूँ, मैप कर रहा होता हूँ, I feel like there's a lot to grow.
Right.
So I still feel
competing with yourself essentially. You're not competing with
yeah. So I say I'm an aspiring motion designer. Right. Like I'm not there yet.
Right. Conversation start करेंगे generally जैसे मैं करता हूँ. You're 30 years old right now?
Yes.
What's your journey been like over the last, let's say, 20-25 years?
It's very weird and very wild. I studied in Beacon House. I was a Beaconite. I think you are as well, right?
As well, yes.
Beaconite.
Beacon House कौन सा था ये? Karachi
में. So my father was a government servant. He did his CSS. So we have moved around a lot.
Right.
So within Karachi we have moved a lot. Then we went to Lahore for a bit. Then we were in Jamshoro, which is near Hyderabad.
Achha.
Then we moved to Hyderabad, and then our family went separate ways because my elder sister got into university.
Right.
तो she went to Karachi, I went to Cadet College Pitaro.
कौन सी क्लास में गए थे?
8th.
So 8th में आप Cadet College गए थे?
Yes.
That must have been difficult.
Yeah, it was a huge adjustment for me because Beacon House से जो कल्चर है वहाँ से फिर एकदम से पिटारो के कल्चर में आया, तो एक बहुत बड़ा कल्चर शॉक था।
पिटारो है किस जगह पर?
वही जामशोर के करीब है। पिटारो इज नाम जो है वो गाँव का है।
Right.
I think वो सिंधी से, पेट वारों से निकला हुआ है।
Right.
तो वो near Jamshoro, near Hyderabad, yeah.
And you guys are originally from, are you guys originally Sindhi as well?
Yes, we are from Ladkana.
Right.
But I have lived most of my life in Karachi, so I consider myself a Karachiite.
But you can speak Sindhi?
Yes, I can speak Sindhi, yeah.
Very cool.
I was born in Ladkana, actually.
Acha.
Yeah.
So 8th grade you go to Cadet College Pitaro.
Cadet College Pitaro, yeah.
And आपने फिर उसके बाद अपना जो high school है वो वहीं से किया complete?
Well, partly. So I hated it there. I hated Pitaro. It was not meant for me. That military lifestyle बिल्कुल भी मेरे लिए नहीं था. So 8th, 9th metric, I did it there. And then I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I left and I went to Karachi. वहाँ पे था DADC, Defense Authority Degree College for Men.
Right.
Did my intermediate. That's what the people in Karachi call it. From there, yeah. So that's
intermediate FSC.
FSC होते हैं, yeah.
Right. Achha, so and what year was this?
This I actually have no idea. I think this is 2008, 2009, if I remember correctly.
ठीक है.
2010
and
probably.
Straight out, what did you do?
So initially, what happened was when I was doing my FSC, my father wanted me to take some tuitions. So I went to वहाँ पे बड़ा एक मशहूर है अनीस हुसैन के नाम से मेरे ख्याल से। तो उन्होंने, हम ट्यूशन के लिए गए थे, लेकिन उन्होंने हमें ना ACCA पिच कर दिया था। तो वो अच्छा, मेरे वालिद साहब जो हैं वो भी, उनका अकाउंटेंसी का बैकग्राउंड है, वो अकाउंट्स एंड ऑडिट ग्रुप में थे।
राइट।
तो उनको बड़ी अच्छी चीज़ लगी ना, ये क्या है, तो ACCA में ये होता है। फिर उन्होंने बड़ा अच्छा पिच किया था कि पहले CAT होता है, फिर ACCA होता है, ACCA के बाद आप जॉब अर्निंग करना स्टार्ट कर देते हैं।
राइट।
तो आई स्टार्ट स्टडिंग दैट ड्यूरिंग आई वाज डूइंग FSC.
अच्छा।
तो एग्ज़ाम नहीं दिए थे, बट एज सून एज आई डिड माई FSC, तो फिर मैंने प्रॉपर एग्जामिनेशन की तरफ सोचना स्टार्ट कर लिया था.
And were you good at math and stats and all of that?
I was actually really good, yeah. So I scored really good marks in all of my CAT exams. But during that CAT exams पे मेरा जो है ना इंटरेस्ट थोड़ा किसी और तरफ जाने शुरू हो गया था. So I was trying to explore that as well.
And what was that?
Graphic design.
अच्छा, उधर से ही स्टार्ट हो गया था.
उधर से, yeah.
What was your first, I would say, क्योंकि I feel like पाकिस्तान में particularly, जब आप I guess दुनिया भर में जो डिज़ाइन की तरफ लोग आते हैं इस तरह आते हैं, देर कोई टच पॉइंट होता है जिसके बाद से जाके उनका दिमाग थोड़ा खुलता है कि यार ये क्या है, एंड यू नो दे स्टार्ट टू एक्सप्लोर. What was that like for you? I mean, what was it that piqued that interest?
So very nerdy बात यहाँ पे भी बोलने वाला हूँ. I used to watch this cartoon called Avatar: The Legend of Aang. ठीक है, it's a really good cartoon. I still watch it.
Last Airbender.
Last Airbender, हाँ. दोनों नाम थे, Legend of Aang and Last Airbender.
Right.
So वो अभी ख़त्म नहीं हुआ था, और उसकी एक उस टाइम पे मेरे ख्याल से ऑर्कट होता था सोशल मीडिया. तो वहाँ पे एक ऑर्किड पे एक कम्युनिटी थी, एंड दे वर टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस एंड दैट. उस टाइम पे एक और चीज़ भी होती थी विच इज़ AMVs होती थी, एनिमे म्यूज़िक वीडियोस, राइट. तो काफ़ी लोग बनाते थे, और एक बहुत ही फेमस एनिमे म्यूज़िक वीडियो प्रोड्यूसर थी एट दैट टाइम. तो आई वॉज रियली इंस्पायर्ड बाय दैट. सो आई वॉज लाइक मैंने भी ये बनाना है ना, आई वॉन्ट टू. बट देन आई वॉज लाइक अच्छा, मैंने एनिमे म्यूजिक वीडियो, मैं ओरिजिनल म्यूजिक वीडियो बनाऊंगा फ्रॉम स्क्रैच.
राइट.
एंड आई वॉज लिसनिंग टू एवनेसेंस एट दैट टाइम. तो वो एक गाना सोचा था मेरे जहन में. उसके बाद मैंने कहा कि ओके, आई एम जस्ट गोना एनिमेट दिस विदाउट हैविंग एनी नॉलेज ऑफ बैकग्राउंड, कुछ भी नहीं ना. तो so like any graphic designer, they pirate the software first and just start fiddling with it. And then when I started fiddling with it, तो मुझे realize हुआ कि ये तो आसान काम नहीं, ये तो बहुत मुश्किल है. And I started with Adobe Flash at that time, because वो animation के लिए था. अब वो Adobe Animate हो गया मेरे ख्याल से. तो I didn't understand any. I was like कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा. I searched online for tutorials. तो उस टाइम पे Photoshop के tutorials ज़्यादा थे, Flash के कम थे. So like okay, I'm just gonna learn Photoshop first. So that was it. I was just एक अबू डीजो के नाम से मेरे ख्याल से क्वाइट उस टाइम से ही है, वो ट्यूटोरियल्स निकालता था. तो आई जस्ट स्टार्ट वॉचिंग दिस वीडियो, ट्राई रेप्लिकेटिंग द इफेक्ट्स दैट ही हैड इन दैट वीडियो. और वो करते करते जो है ना, बस फिर वो एक अट्रैक्शन, इट वॉज मोर लाइक टेक्निक, किस टेक्निक से हो रहा है और किस तरह से हो रहा है. तो आई जस्ट गॉट lured into this domain.
And how long before you were able to switch that particular degree? क्योंकि आपने 2010 में graduate किया FSC से.
Yeah.
And then after graduating, were you still pursuing ACCA?
Yeah. So for 1.5 years, I did my CAT. I completed my CAT. And after in that 1.5 years, I explored a lot. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to do CAT. Like accountancy is not my thing. So I wanted to move to design. So I was like looking out for avenues कि कहाँ से मुझे कोई design की पढ़ाई मिल जाए, कोई degree मिल जाए. Yeah.
And क्या मिला था next? What was it?
So it was I wanted to go to an IVS. It's this Indus Valley School of Arts and Architecture. It's one of the most renowned in Pakistan. But उनकी वो हो गई थी, बंद हो गई थी उस टाइम पे. And then there was ICRA University. But then there was...
ICRA is pretty good as well, by the way.
ICRA apparently is very good. I have a lot of colleagues that have studied there, and they're doing way better than most.
Where did you go?
So I did end up going to ICRA because I went to this another institute called PFKIET, Pakistan Air Force Karachi Institute of Economics and Technology. And the reason I went there was कि वो उनका जो बैचलर्स प्रोग्राम था, बैचलर्स ऑफ कंप्यूटर आर्ट्स, उसमें डिज़ाइन भी थी, फोटोग्राफी भी थी, फिल्म मेकिंग भी थी, 3D भी था. तो
like a bit of everything just starts you off with that वो और आप एक्सपर्टीज खुद बिल्ड कर लें जिसमें.
Yeah, so I was very greedy at that time कि I wanted to learn everything. ये भी सीखना है, वो भी सीखना है, हर चीज़ सीखना है ना. I want to dip my toes in every pond.
I feel like, to be honest, that's a good approach as well at that age, because उस टाइम पे अगर आप ज़्यादा अपने हिसाब से दिमाग में बना लें कि यार ये मेरा वो है, I feel like उस टाइम पे बंदा वैसे ही बहुत फ्लिप फ्लॉप कर रहा होता है कि मुझे ये भी करना है, मुझे ये भी करना है, and really sort of figuring out कि मुझे long term में क्या करना है takes a little while.
I completely agree. I think it's a very important decision to pick your niche and stick with it, because unless you don't pick your niche, you will not build your expertise around it, right?
Right.
But in order to pick that niche, you have to figure out कि भाई क्या क्या चीज़ें हैं out there, and then do those things and figure out what is it that you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I think young people, especially young people, should explore, but give yourself a deadline. कि after this I'm done exploring and I'm going to pick one thing and I'm going to continue with that path.
Right. So 4 years की degree आपने की PF.
Yes, PF की से.
Is that also like called NUST या NUST separate है Karachi?
नहीं, वो separate है, completely separate.
And then were you working during that time anywhere? आपने कोई freelancing या किस तरह की चीज़ करना शुरू की? What was your first experience with work?
So my first ever job was, I think, election year था. And
2013?
Yes. And some channel, I don't even remember which channel, wanted like a small piece of animation कि वो जिसमें votes show हो रहे होते थे. तो वो मैंने एक बड़ी बेसिक सी एनिमेशन बनाई थी, लेकिन वो इस्तेमाल भी नहीं कर पाए थे बिकॉज दे वांटेड समथिंग एक्सट्रीमली लाइट के जो आराम से लोड हो जाए, उनके कोई हार्डवेयर में मसला था। तो फिर वो बिल्कुल ही टोन डाउन एंड बेसिक एनिमेशन की थी, उसके मुझे 6,000 रुपये मिले थे। आई स्टिल हैव दैट रिसीव्ड सेव्ड अप कि वो 6,000 में, दैट वाज माय फर्स्ट थिंग। बट जस्ट आफ्टर माय फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर my dean offered me an internship at his place, so I did that.
Acha.
So yeah, so internship, and the first actual gig was
that one. What was his place? I mean, what sort of what was
so
he doing?
he has his organization called Premier Graphics ke naam se, yeah. So it's a graphic design house who graphic services provide kar rahe hote in Karachi.
Right. Yeah. You graduated in what year?
I think I graduated a little late. It was either 2015 or 2016, not too sure.
So you started late या आपके ज़्यादा साल लगे थे?
So for 1.5 years I did CAT. तो वहाँ पे मेरा टाइम वहाँ पे लगा था. And then I moved to bachelor's. तो bachelor's में I was taking things very slow. I wasn't doing things for the sake of कि आपका credit score ख़त्म हो जाएगा या वो. I've actually dropped out courses, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रही थी, even though I could have passed it. In hindsight, I think I should have just passed it and then learned on my own time. But I genuinely wanted to learn, so I was like, okay, I'm going to take this slow. And वो काफ़ी late हो गया था फिर, yeah.
Right. And so 15-16 when you graduated.
Yeah.
And then since then, have you been working continuously? So I'm trying to understand उसके बाद की journey, because computer arts से बंदा graduate करके, I've spoken to a lot of people from computer arts, media, film. Nobody ends up going towards motion graphics, right? So that particular how did you manage to identify your niche, polish it, really focus on it? What was that like?
So right after I graduated, I was a little disheartened by the design industry in Pakistan. I felt like as such itna scope nahi hai. Basically, I had a couple of clients who didn't value good design per se.
Right.
So I got a little disheartened. Like maybe if I'm giving them good stuff, can I charge them more money? And they were like, नहीं, कम पैसों में गंदी चीज़ों में दे दो. So I was a little disheartened. I didn't know how to basically manage clients. That was the issue.
Right.
So got a little disheartened. My parents, because my father is himself a CSP officer, they were like, okay, CSS भी एक option है. Try this. So I was like, okay, let me try this. Like,
were you freelancing उससे पहले?
Yeah. I've been freelancing since the first semester at my college. Yeah, I was that kind of a person where people would come to me for consultancy and ask questions. कि ये किस तरह करेंगे? ये project किस तरह करेंगे?
Right.
So yeah, so throughout the time I had been freelancing, but at that point I was like, okay, this is a little difficult because there is the creative aspect of it and then there's the business aspect of it. I couldn't handle the business aspect of it. So like, okay, let's just leave this. Maybe I can explore CSS. So I went to Lahore actually to study for my CSS examination in 2016.
And like Lahore mein? Why in Lahore?
So
कोई particular academy है वहाँ पर?
Yeah, there are a couple of academies, but in general, the atmosphere of Lahore is very different from Karachi. Because I studied in Karachi for CSS and I studied in Lahore, and there's magnitude of difference. I think basic आपकी bureaucracy जो है वो लाहौर में है, established हुई है, तो वहाँ का बिल्कुल different है. They're operating on a completely different scale. Like you'd be surprised.
When you say a different scale, what do you mean by that? I mean, is it more aggressive? Is it more connected to, I don't know, because CSS तो I'm guessing आपने federal का देना होगा ना, आपने local provincial तो नहीं दे रहे होंगे.
नहीं.
Your father is a
CSP officer. Yeah.
CSP, so he's provincial officer.
No. CSP is federal.
Federal के.
Yeah.
अच्छा ठीक है. उन्होंने भी CSS देकर उसी के route के through आए थे. तो जो लाहौर और कराची का difference है, what was that?
So I think a hot take over here, there is a difference in the level of education in Sindh and Punjab, I would say.
ठीक है.
तो कराची में, let me phrase it this way, लाहौर में the things that were considered basic, ये तो पता ही पता होना चाहिए, were considered very advanced in Karachi.
अच्छा.
So and this I didn't know this. My father told me that.
Right.
Which is why he was like कि तुम लाहौर जाओ वहाँ पे पढ़ो. And when I studied there and I studied in Karachi, I was like, okay, है ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क है. In terms of CSS paper.
Right.
Otherwise, obviously, तो obviously
कराची में इंडस्ट्री है, बिजनेस है, वो और चीज़ों के वहाँ पर है. बट आई गेस आई डू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. मतलब ओवरऑल मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में I see as the more you go down south, the more disconnected from the national narrative I see people becoming. क्योंकि वो I don't know, maybe it's the distance, maybe it's the fact कि culture बड़ा फ़र्क है. And obviously you need that national narrative because CSS का paper है at the end of the day.
Yeah.
अब वो है. How long were you in Lahore for?
So I was in Lahore for I think 1.5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
और साथ साथ फ्रीलांसिंग वगैरह भी कर रहे थे? बस
नहीं, that was just studying or attempting to study. Let's phrase it that way.
What year and what age?
I think that was 2016 and 2017.
And you were 25, 26?
Yeah, around that time.
How was that like? I mean, not earning at the age of 25, 26. What was the emotion like?
So, it was difficult. First of all, when you imagine, you'll be living on your own. And I have experience living on my own in Pitaro, but that was very different from living completely on your own, not in a hostel.
Right.
In a different city where you have no social contacts whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, again, it was a culture shock for me at first. And then I realized that it was difficult studying for CSS. I mean, I felt the more I studied, the more I realized that bhai mujhe to kuch bhi nahi aata. And that was stressful. And I think because of that stress, I started having like medical issues, like my पेट खराब होना शुरू हो गया था, and
anxiety type.
Yeah. I didn't know at that time, but I had to come back to Karachi and get treated for that.
Right.
So now in hindsight, I realized it was basically a mental issue and less has to do with actual physical issue, because आपके gut और आपके brain दोनों बड़े अच्छी तरीके से intertwined होते हैं.
Did you ever find that you being a Sindhi in Lahore was a thing?
Not necessarily. एक weird cultural shock था कि in class, and it's like a formal setting, हम बैठे हुए पढ़ रहे हैं, and थोड़ा सा जब serious topic हो जाता था, and if the teacher wanted to, lighten the mood, so he would crack a joke in Punjabi.
Right.
Okay, and that was such a huge culture shock, and I didn't understand it because he would do it in a very thick Punjabi accent, and I loved that teacher, by the way, amazing teacher. But I just couldn't comprehend how you would just switch language and alienate me, because that wouldn't happen in Karachi at all. Like the teacher wouldn't joke in Sindhi, and to lighten up the mood. So that was a weird cultural shock for me. And it felt like, so because Punjabi is spoken, like it's a dominant language, so it can be used interchangeably with Urdu. So that was a weird culture shock for me. I didn't realize that at that time.
That's interesting. Do you have a lot of people speaking Punjabi in Karachi?
Not a lot, actually. There are a few, and even the Punjabis who live in Karachi, they have the tendency to not speak in Punjabi.
Acha.
Yeah,
Urdu is
Urdu and English mostly. Yeah.
सही है. So 1.5 years in Lahore. हाँ, sorry, ये तो मैं स्टार्टर था. आप मुझे बता रहे थे कल्चर में क्या फ़र्क था, खाने में क्या फ़र्क था.
I didn't really feel a lot of difference between Karachi and Lahore per se.
Achha.
I found Lahore more beautiful. It was definitely more green than Karachi, and it just had this sense of like it had ethnic culture attached to it, like that you don't see in Karachi.
Acha, what do you mean by that?
Like just with the architecture, you see this is very desi thing, right? In Karachi, it's very metropolitan, it's very international.
Very sort of concrete jungle.
Jungle. With Lahore, it was more beautiful, and you see it's called the cultural hub of Pakistan, right? It felt that way. This is a cultural hub of Pakistan.
And I think जिस time पे आप थे उस time के ऊपर, I mean, definitely आप 4 बातों से disagree कर लें, but the PMLN did a great job at sort of cleaning up that city.
So I was living in Gulbarg at that time, so that entire place was beautiful. It was amazing. Like the roads were clean and it was lit properly. It was very nice. So for me to come from Karachi to this place, it was massive change. Yeah.
Zabardast. And so 1.5 years in Lahore. Did you attempt CSS? या आपने eventually सोचा क्या नहीं हो रहा और बस अल्लाह हाफ़िज़?
So I wanted to attempt. I didn't attempt because one of my friends was getting married in Karachi, and he's a Christian friend, and I was his best man.
Right.
So I was like, okay, if I have to, it was in December. So, and आपका exam February के करीब हो रहा होता है. So I was like, if I attend this wedding, I will not be able to give this paper because I really need to prepare for it. So I talked to another friend. He was like, oh, if you miss this wedding, bahut bura hoga. So and then my father gave me sort of a go at. He was like, okay, why don't you take one more year? You have enough attempts, like you have the age to attempt it again. So why don't you take one more year and study, and then you do give the paper. So I didn't do the first attempt, which I should have done. That was a big mistake. The second attempt, by the time, बल्कि उससे बहुत ही पहले ना मेरी तबीयत ख़राब होने शुरू हो गई थी because I was थोड़ा सा anxious, कुछ पढ़ाई नहीं हो रही थी सही तरीके से. I thought maybe I wasn't doing enough. So I just came back to Karachi and I didn't attempt the paper.
You didn't attempt the
No.
paper? And what was that conversation like with your father?
My father was okay with it because he saw that I was suffering. Like it was really bad. Like I couldn't eat properly.
Achha.
I would just eat and I would just throw up.
Acha.
Yeah, it was really bad. So he saw that, he understood ke bhai okay nahi ho raha, so like calm down. He didn't give me like any kind of scolding or anything. Kuch bhi aisa kuch nahi kaha. Very chill about it. Yeah.
Zabardast. And so you came back to Karachi. What was the next step?
So when I came back to Karachi, I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I started redoing my freelancing work. I did a corporate film. Then I worked for a couple of people in Karachi. Then I met a friend in Karachi who had been working in Islamabad for quite some time. So she pitched the idea. She's like, okay, we're looking for animator. And at this point, I've decided, okay, I'm no longer going to pursue graphic design. I'm going to pursue motion design specifically.
Right.
Because I had बहुत काम कर लिया था, like film भी कर लिया, photography भी कर लिया. I was like, okay, now I need to narrow my focus.
If I were to ask you, for the benefit of the audience, graphic design or motion design, what's the difference?
So the definition of motion design is still very undecided at the moment. But you can say that if where graphic design meets animation, that's motion design.
Right.
Generally, जब हम animation बोल रहे होते हैं, we're talking about character-based animation, story-based animation. And motion design sometimes have those elements. But motion design sometimes does not necessarily have to be like characters or story. It's sometimes very abstract and
boxes and shapes.
Boxes and shapes and colors and patterns. So it's just graphic design animated.
Right.
It's very difficult to explain it. And it's easier to show it. Okay, this would be motion design, this would be animation.
Right. Yeah. And so ये 2017 चल रहा है, and now you've decided कि भाई motion design ही है जो मैंने करना है pursue.
Yeah.
But then पाकिस्तान में ना कहीं हो रहा है, ना कोई इसको seriously लेता है.
So it depends the kind of motion. So motion design is a huge umbrella term, right? So simply अगर आपके news channels पे tickers चल रहे, that's also motion design because that's graphic design meets with animation, right? आपके जो weather forecast पे animation चल रही है, that's also motion design. So हो रहा है, but or not the scale that I want it to be.
Right.
मेरा primary focus था towards advertisements and company की जो आपकी corporate videos होती हैं in motion design. General consensus यहाँ पे ये है पाकिस्तान में, which is slowly changing, is कि अगर वो motion design नहीं देखते, वो देखते cartoon है. तो वो कहते हैं कि cartoon है तो बच्चों के लिए है, ठीक है, हमारे लिए नहीं है.
Right.
So, but it's slowly changing, obviously, with the young people coming into power centers there, and they understand motion design and how it has the ability to connect with everybody. Because one of the powerful things of motion design is that when you don't represent one specific person and you're representing just an idea, it can easily connect with a lot of people.
Right.
So a lot of young people are realizing this and they see the potential for motion design. And it's gradually going to change in Pakistan, definitely.
Right. थोड़ा सा एकदम से मेरे दिमाग में एक सवाल आया. आपने जब CSS के लिए तैयारी की, आपने ज़ाहिर बहुत सारी चीज़ें पढ़ी होंगी, बहुत सारे perspectives पढ़े होंगे. Do you think, even though you ended up not giving an exam, do you think that education that you got in that 1.5 year helped shape your personality in terms of everything else that you do?
Yes, a lot. You have no idea. I remember being in this class and I realizing I don't know any like this, because when I went in that CSS class, and I had a very good teacher who taught us international relations, and the way he taught us was initially was very jarring, like कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा क्या बोल रहे हैं. But as soon as I started understanding the concepts and the jargons, I realized that okay, I didn't know how world worked, and now I know. Or maybe I at least know the essence of it, okay? And I can explore it further. Definitely. And this education in Lahore, not in Karachi per se. So definitely it.
मतलब जिस तरह एक तो होता है ना कि हाउ द वर्ल्ड वर्क्स, बट आई फील लाइक कि जब आपको उस तरह की चीज़ें पता लगती हैं तो उससे आपकी पर्सनल लाइफ या आपकी द वे दैट यू वुड डू थिंग्स, द वे दैट यू वुड even shape your own professional life, I feel like would begin to change because you now have a much tunnel vision से आप बड़ा बहुत सारे और वेरिएबल्स को भी देख रहे हो. जिस तरह मैं दिमाग में मेरे इस तरह से आया कि जो आपने ये बोली ना बात कि now young people are getting into the power corridors, and I know for a fact that a lot of people wouldn't think like that. A lot of particularly artists or engineers जो बहुत अपने ट्रेड के बारे में टची होते हैं, वो बस कहते हैं कि यार नहीं हो रहा, वो बहुत पैशनेट या कि वो हो जाते हैं, they're unable to see the macro of it. Keep on doing it and maybe things are changing. Do you think that was part of because of the way that CSS sort of opened your mind?
Yes, definitely. I feel like first of all, I was very an idealist before CSS, and then I became more realist. Okay, the world doesn't work the way I think it should. Right? The world works in a certain manner, and maybe it shouldn't work like that, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So you should accept it and work around it.
Right.
And not try to change it like
radically.
Yeah, कि भाई पूरा आप जो है ना overall कर दें. So definitely in terms of personality, in terms of perspective,
right,
it helped me a lot.
And जब हम बात करते हैं motion design की, and I really want to straight up after this I'd like to sort of explore the graphic design aspect of things, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में we know that there is a huge चले motion graphics के ऊपर काम नहीं भी हो रहा, but at least starting point के ऊपर we have a huge graphic design की space that is now popping up with freelancers and so on and so forth, and I really want to explore that. But just to sort of understand, एक ऐसी field आपने identify की जो कि generally I mean you wouldn't even find people around you जो कि आपको help कर सकें essentially, right? It's very पाकिस्तान में अभी बहुत nascent सी है वो space और industry. जब आपने जाके उसमें grow करना था, सीखना था, तो what did you do? Because did you find any courses पाकिस्तानी या local या I mean, what was your, it was all experience, कि बस try करते जाओ, कोशिश करते जाओ and सीख लिया. How did you build that sort of thought leadership within that space?
Okay, so when I started, I didn't have this great resource, which is GFX Mentor, जो अभी उनके जो catalog है, they make amazing videos. और वो local language में कर रहे होते, तो वो और भी अच्छी बात है. उस टाइम पे हमारे पास ये नहीं थी. हम अंग्रेज़ों की देखते थे. We used to watch all their content and then just replicating that. So initially I did that, and then what I did was I saved up some money, and then there is a website called School of Motion.
Right.
It's the leading motion design school, and I paid an enormous amount to get that one very advanced course, because I was like, I can only afford one course. I'm not going to go with basics. I want to learn advanced. So what
was if you're okay with sharing, क्या cost?
It was $1,000.
$1,000.
Yes.
आजकल के ज़माने में 1,80,000 for a course.
Yes. उस टाइम पे थोड़ा सा कम था.
Obviously वो डॉलर रेट के हिसाब से उस टाइम मैं कह लेता हूँ $100 का डॉलर है तो चलो $1,00,000. But do you think it was worth it?
It was definitely worth it. I think first of all, when I was doing the course, I couldn't finish it because it was very advanced. I was like, okay, I need to step back. It was too much to handle. But उससे फ़ायदा ये हुआ कि two things happened. I finally understood two things. First of all, what is it about the Western designers and how they do things there so well? Like how are they doing things differently? And the only difference I found was the amount of effort. यहाँ पे लोग एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि हम 1 दिन 2 दिन 3 दिन 1 हफ्ते में हम चीज़ बना के दे दें, राइट? वहाँ पे स्केल बहुत डिफरेंट है इन टर्म्स ऑफ पे एंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ टाइमिंग. वहाँ का एक प्रोजेक्ट 3 महीने 4 महीने 6 महीने एंड इट्स जस्ट 3 मिनट वीडियो और 5 मिनट वीडियो. सो व्हेन यू पुल इन दैट मच effort in terms of multiple people working on the same project or a single person working on the same project for such a prolonged amount of time, तो obviously वो अच्छी चीज़ ही निकलेगी.
So you're saying it's not necessarily the skill that they have that's different. It's basically the process जिसकी वजह से they're able to create much better products.
I completely agree. I think we as Pakistani are just as skilled. If we are given the chance and the conducive environment to actually do a project well, they'll be able to do it well.
Very interesting. अच्छा, इसके अंदर now I'm gonna jump right into the जो सवाल मैं आपसे करने लगा था. देखिए जी, पाकिस्तान में मुझे जो पर्सनली मसला नज़र आ रहा है ना डिज़ाइन के साथ, ओवरऑल पहले बात कर लेते हैं, अभी फ्रीलांसिंग साइट पे नहीं जाते, डिज़ाइन की बात कर लेते हैं. हमारे यहाँ होता ये है कि कोई एक बंदा कोई एक अगर चीज़ बना ले, हमारे डिज़ाइन जो है ना बड़ा कॉपी पेस्ट है, राइट? सो किसी ने कुछ बना लिया तो बस सबने आंखें बंद की, सबने कहा कि यार बस अब ये कर लो बिकॉज अपेरेंटली ये चल रहा है। छोटी सी मिसाल इसकी आजकल ये है कि पेप्सी का गाना आया, उसके ऊपर आपने वो थोड़ी लाइट स्ट्रिक्स डाल दी, आपने वो रैप डाल के आपने वो कर लिया, तो अब हर बंदा वही डालेगा, वो रैप डालेगा और वो एक 35mm ओल्ड फिल्म इफेक्ट डालेगा और वो सारा कुछ डालेगा। थॉटलेस, what I would say is it's very thoughtless in terms of how we approach design overall in every aspect. And then उसको अगर मैं लेकर आता हूँ in the way that we are doing commercial work, तो पहला स्टेप तो बड़ा अच्छा हो गया कि जिसपे hundreds भी नहीं, मैं कहूँगा probably tens of thousands of graphic designers हमने create कर लिए, जो कि low value quick turnaround design आपको दे देंगे। So वो आपको for example जो है वो उनके पोर्टफोलियो के अंदर 5 अच्छे पीसेस भी होंगे, लेकिन वो बहुत हिट और मिस होगा बिकॉज दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड द फंडामेंटल ऑफ डिज़ाइन, राइट? सो वो आपको 24 घंटे के अंदर अंदर एक लोगो डिज़ाइन करके दे देंगे $5 के अंदर, और अगर लोगो डिज़ाइन नहीं समझ आ रहा क्लाइंट को तो वो कहेंगे यार ठीक है, आई विल मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्लाइंट, लेट्स नॉट वेस्ट आवर टाइम हियर। मैं मल्टीपल टाइम्स पॉडकास्ट से पहले भी ये बात कर चुका हूँ, मुझे पर्सनली ये लगता है कि जो ये वाला लो वैल्यू डिज़ाइन का एस्पेक्ट है ये टाइम्ड है और ये ऑटोमेट हो जाएगा। बिकॉज बड़ी सिंपल सी बात है, अगर मैं इसको डीकंस्ट्रक्ट करूँ तो ये एक स्किल है, दो चीज़ें ना, एक स्किल है और एक ह्यूमन माइंड है, जो कि ह्यूमन माइंड आके उसके अंदर से फलसफा वो करता है। स्किल को आप ऑटोमेट बड़े आराम से कर सकते हैं, इट्स ओनली अ मैटर ऑफ द राइट AI विद द राइट प्रोसेसिंग पावर एंड इनफ डेटा टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट पीपल वांट एंड देन जस्ट बीइंग एबल टू क्रिएट इट। जो फिलॉसफी है, जो ह्यूमन माइंड है, जो ह्यूमन एलिमेंट है उसका, दैट्स वेयर ऑल द वैल्यू रियली लाइज। एंड इन द फ्यूचर वो यही होगा कि जब वो ह्यूमन एलिमेंट एडिड होगा तब जाकर आप एक्चुअली उस कमर्शियल वर्क को कर सकेंगे। हमारा मसला ये आ रहा है कि हमारे यहाँ बिकॉज हमने सबको फ्रीलांसिंग पे तो लगा दिया, तो हमने वो एस्पेक्ट, हमने कमर्शियल एस्पेक्ट में मनी मेकिंग एस्पेक्ट तो सिखा दिया, बट वी डोंट हैव, आई रियली डोंट सी, आई मीन व्हेन आई लुक अराउंड, 4-5 साल हो गए ऑलमोस्ट जब से आपने ये इस साइड पे आए और स्कूल ऑफ मोशन एंड वो सारा का सारा किया। आई डोंट सी इनफ कोर्सेज ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल। GFX Mentor definitely is doing a good job, but he's just one channel doing very specific content, right? It's not proper. And so either converting that $5 per logo talent to $500 per brand book टैलेंट, पहला तो वो। दूसरा ये कि आइदर फॉर द सेक ऑफ कि हम रेवेन्यू इंक्रीज करें और फॉर द सेक ऑफ फ्यूचर सर्वाइवल, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ दीज विल बी डिसरप्टेड। व्हाट डू यू थिंक, अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि हाउ डू यू, ये तो जाहिर है मेरा, आई एम नॉट अ डिज़ाइनर, मैं थर्ड पर्सन एनालिसिस करूँ, बीइंग पार्ट ऑफ द डिज़ाइन स्पेस, what do you think is the major problem that's happening right now? And I know for a fact इसमें एक context मैं add करवाना चाहूँगा जो कि आपका एक experience रहा है, ND2C, one of the premium design conferences in Pakistan. You've attended that as well. You've met with the community. What is your experience like?
So I think the problem that you have identified now, that's bigger than design. I think that goes to most creative fields in Pakistan. And the way I see it, there are two aspects of any creative field. There is the idea, the core idea, and then there's the execution. So unfortunately हमारी आवाम ना यहाँ पे execution पे ज़्यादा फोकस करती है, और वो इस वजह से फोकस करती है क्योंकि वो ज़्यादा आसान है. इट्स टेक्निकल थिंग्स, यू लर्न सर्टन टेक्निक्स, ये एक टेक्निक सीख ली, वो एक टेक्निक सीखी, यू कैन ईजिली रेप्लिकेट इट. विद द कोर आइडिया द प्रॉब्लम इज़ कि इट्स मोर creative and it's more difficult and you have to think a lot. You have to identify के what does the brand stand for, उनकी क्या core values है, उनमें क्या insight है in the market, and how do you connect these two. So it's a difficult process. And वो काफ़ी theoretical होता है. So a lot of people shy away from the theoretical aspect of it, and I think that's not a good thing. Now in certain institutes, I'll give a direct comparison. कि अगर आप IVS चले जाएं कराची में, दे फोकस अ लॉट ऑन आइडिया, कि आपका कोर आइडिया स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए, आपका आइडिया स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए, एंड देन दे निगेट द एग्जीक्यूशन बिट. उस पर ज़्यादा फोकस नहीं करते. एंड देन देयर आर अदर इंस्टीट्यूट्स जैसे इकरा हो गया, PF कीट हो गया, वो एग्जीक्यूशन बहुत फोकस करते हैं कि आप ये सॉफ्टवेयर सीखें, आप ये सॉफ्टवेयर सीखें, इस तरह कर सकें. बोथ दीज अप्रोचेज आर प्रॉब्लमैटिक. ठीक है, विदाउट गुड एग्जीक्यूशन आपका आइडिया फ्लैश आउट नहीं होगा. विदाउट a good idea, आपकी execution hollow होगी, right? So you literally have to give equal weightage to both of these things. Now coming back to design में यही चीज़ हो रही है. People who call themselves graphic designer, they know certain softwares, they know how to run it, they know how to replicate things, but उनको बिठा के पूछे ना कि ये ब्रांड है, इसका मुझे लोगो बनाना है, they give me generic options कि ये कर सकते. No, the first thing is that you need to ask this brand कि आपकी क्या story है, what are your values, what do you stand for, and based on that you build something, right? So yeah, this issue definitely exists in Pakistan, and it's more wider than graphic design. It's generally towards all creative fields.
How do you think, what's the I mean, simple सवाल पूछने लगा हूँ, but let's start with that. How do you solve it?
How do we solve it? The way we solve it is start demanding good things. And I think I see that happening because अभी थोड़ा सा मेरा journey अच्छा खासा चल गया, तो I see that over the years. People are now demanding कि ये दिखने में बड़ी अच्छी थी, but this it's not appropriate for the brand they're presenting, right? इस टाइप का when you start demanding this, when you start educating people कि ये अच्छा है, ये बुरा है, and give them awareness about it, when there's demand for it, obviously they start producing.
Supply ज़ाहिर बात है.
Yeah.
नहीं, again देखें, एक तो आपने बड़ा basically demand करें. I feel like now with the way that content has been democratized through YouTube and TikTok and so on and so forth. आप जिस तरह भी उसको कह लें कि यार पाकिस्तान में quality of content अभी बड़ा लो है, understandably है. आप TikTok लोकल देख लें, TikTok US देख लें, दोनों में फ़र्क आपको नज़र आएगा. वजह उसकी ये है कि कंज्यूमर जो है वो इन itself अभी बहुत ज़्यादा primitive है in terms of what they like and dislike, and so if the consumer is primitive, people are going to make what the consumer wants. But eventually consumer is going to evolve, and as they're going to get better, automatically the demand for more quality content will come in as well. My problem is that irrespective of what the consumer demands, and probably इसकी जो दो बड़ी अच्छी examples होंगी, एक पाकिस्तान में dramas, consumer demand बहुत aggressively exist करती है. हम उस demand को more often than not we tend to ignore it. So हम कहते हैं कि जी पाकिस्तान में प्यार मोहब्बत चलती है, पाकिस्तान में cousins की शादियाँ और फिर उसके बाद वो उनकी सौतने और वो वही चलता है, right? And then we saw कि अर्तुगरुल आता है और वो जाके completely redesign कर देता है consumer demand के aspect को, and suddenly now where we begin to recreate drama. अभी वो सिर्फ आहन, I guess that's the word, वो आया हुआ है जिसमें women are वो ISPR का drama है with very interesting. I saw the first episode. The conversations that they're targeting, they're like literally very very modern conversations for a mass market audience, and the mass market is loving it. आप सोचें कि वो चीज़ें आप बात करें, you imagine कि पाकिस्तान में तो ये चलेंगे नहीं, लोग तो गालियाँ देंगे आकर. चला similarly PSL दूसरी मेरी मिसाल होगी. चल रहा है आजकल, आपने भेजा था मीम, किसने भेजा था कि this PSL is not PSLing like the other PSLs.
Yes.
You've seen all the music videos as well. The demand is very clearly there. ठीक है. Some of the top talent was utilized. Some of the top dollar was spent. I don't know if the time was where everything happened really quickly या क्या वजह हुई. Every single song, every single piece is like a half-assed college project. Literally, college के projects होते थे ना, वो यही होता है कि यार आप बस आखिरी रात को बैठ के कुछ ना कुछ जमा पूंजी लगा के कर देते थे.
Yes.
हर product वैसे ही लग रही है. And I think one of the reasons why, like the way that I identify it, as with all other things in Pakistan, आपकी डिमांड अगर बढ़ भी जाए ना, आप सप्लाई साइड पे फोकस नहीं करते. आप सप्लाई साइड को अपग्रेड, जिस कहते हैं ना अपस्किलिंग, रीस्किलिंग, रियली सॉर्ट ऑफ फिगरिंग आउट कि यार जैसे जैसे डिमांड बढ़े वैसे वैसे हमारे पास वो राइट टैलेंट अवेलेबल हो ताकि उस टाइम के ऊपर वो उस टैलेंट को सर्विस कर सके. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपके पास इन द ड्रामा इंडस्ट्री, इन द म्यूज़िक इंडस्ट्री, इन ऑल ऑफ दोज इंडस्ट्रीज, आपके पास कॉन्स्टेंटली आप क्या कर रहे हैं कि आप वो लोग जिन्होंने शायद 2 साल पहले, 3 साल पहले एक सक्सेसफुल चीज़ बना कर दी है आपको, आप उस टैलेंट से एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि अब वो नई अपग्रेडेड चीज़ भी आपको देते रहेंगे. एंड सो the entire thing about disruption just doesn't exist anymore, because obviously बात है कि these guys are experts of what has been वाली बात.
Yeah.
And the fact is they're not going to new people because you never invested on those new people to be able to come in and take the center stage. So I'm going to bring that now to design aspect of it as well. मैं कहता हूँ यार मेरे पास एक डिज़ाइनर है, बिकॉज पर्टिकुलरली 2 एपिसोड्स हमने की थी. कनेक्टेड पाकिस्तान वाले साहब थे, अरसलान शाह साहब. दूसरा कासिम उमर वाली, वेरी वेरी वाइडली वॉच्ड व्यूड एपिसोड्स फ्रीलांसिंग के ऊपर थी. दोनों ने आके ये बात बोली थी कि ग्राफिक डिज़ाइन कन्वेंशनल जो है वो डिसरप्ट हो जाएगा. आई नो फॉर अ फैक्ट both of these people are very very powerful thought leaders. There are a lot of freelancers right now looking at them and they're thinking कि यार okay sure like so I understand आज मैं $1,000-2,000 कमा रहा हूँ, शायद मैं 4 साल बाद ना कमा सकूँ, मुझे कुछ अपना वर्क फ्लो बदलना है. For them, if I were to ask you what do you recommend, क्या करें, what's the next step?
It's very easy actually for them. I think just go back to basics. Just figure out, if you're a marketer, figure out what works in marketing. What, like, not the formula कि okay, if I want to make a good advert, तो ये करूँगा तो ये अच्छा advert बन जाएगा, because that formula may work right now, may not work in the future. But focus on the insights. के basic यही होती है कि you go into the market and you figure out क्या हो रहा है आपके market में, क्या insight है, what is how are they thinking and how can we connect with them, right? You just do the basics and you are secured, because उसी से ना आप you can evolve easily to whatever the world or technology is about to throw at you. Because generally your tech is very disruptive, especially in design. I remember this is technique in motion design जिसमें आप logo reveal कर रहे होते हैं, and it takes like आराम से minimum 8 to 16 hours to make that thing, right? अब वो एक plugin आ गया है, you just click it and it does that for you, right? But if you don't know how to do that, like in the first place, in terms of कि color या composition या speed or pacing or timing, ये सब चीज़ें नहीं पता, then you won't be able to successfully produce it even with that plugin.
Right.
So when you have your basics and fundamentals, be that any creative field, be that design, ग्राफिक डिज़ाइन में तो उसमें आपका कि विजुअल आपकी कंपोजिशन के रूल्स जो होते हैं.
मैं अगर आपसे पूछना चाहूँ, मैं कहता हूँ यार मैं एक डिज़ाइनर हूँ, मुझे 4-5 बेसिक चीज़ें समझनी है. मैं फॉर एग्जांपल इस तरह कलर थियरी, आप आजकल बनान को आपने लगाया, व्हाट वुड बी दोस 4-5 थिंग्स जो कि आप कहेंगे कि यार ये वाले कोर्सेज ले लो, ये समझ लो, तुम डिज़ाइन में बहुत बेहतर हो जाओ.
सो देयर आर 2 थिंग्स इन डिज़ाइन. एक होता है आपके एलिमेंट्स ऑफ डिज़ाइन और एक होता है प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ डिज़ाइन. ठीक है, इन सारे एलिमेंट्स पे किताबें छपी होंगी. कलर थ्योरी इज़ वन ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ डिज़ाइन, राइट?
ठीक है.
तो आप जस्ट यू गूगल देम, you'll find couple of lists, right? And you start focusing each element and each principle and just go deep in it. Figure out what works, what doesn't work, and that's it. That's all you need to know to secure yourself for the future.
Right. Principles of design and elements
of design, yeah.
Very interesting. I've also noticed कि आपका जो workflow है, the way that you work at the office, and not just yourself. I mean, when you started working here, so we were a bunch of headless chickens screaming and running around. And you integrated a lot of these sort of productivity tools and really sort of focused on the workflow aspect of things.
Yeah.
Why did that become such an important part of your own workflow?
So a lot of people in the office think I'm very organized, and that is not true. I'm the most disorganized person in Pakistan. But what helped me was like I had a lot of thoughts, I had a lot of projects, a lot of tasks. Or I remember earlier I told you I couldn't manage clients.
Right.
So I have had a lot of issues with that, right? And I realized the biggest issue was not at client end, it was more at my end that I wasn't organized enough, right? And I realized that. सबसे पहले तो ये कि I have no idea, like if a client comes to me, initially, if a client would come to me and ask me कि ये logo है कितने टाइम में बनाना है, I wouldn't have an answer to that. Because मैंने कभी ट्रैक ही नहीं किया. Because मैं आराम से खुद ही अपने टाइम से कर रहा था. तो these problems do exist in creators, by the way, and it's not just isolated incident कि मैं इस तरह हुआ था. बहुत लोग इस तरह होते हैं. तो I recognize that this is a huge problem. So then I started organizing myself, and because when you organize yourself and you put things on the paper or any plan, a lot of your problems are solved. Because generally what happens is when you put things on paper, you see the bigger picture, you realize that either you're overcommitting, or the task is impossible, or it's beyond scope of the things that you have agreed with, right? So when you put things on paper and you organize yourself, a lot of these problems are eliminated. So you're just making things easy for yourself. So I realized that, I learned that the hard way throughout these years. So, and I saw that happening here when I joined PakistanNow.
Right.
So I was like, bhai, zaruri nahi hai. We don't have to go through this. I've already gone through this. We can like solve this problem. which is why I really pushed for a more organized workflow here in Pakistan now. And it has worked.
Do you think it has? I mean, I'm not. This is not an attack on the team.
Thank you for attacking my team.
मैं ये इस वजह से कह रहा हूँ कि पाकिस्तान में generally I was speaking to my brother and we were talking about पाकिस्तान में काम. He works in the Silicon Valley, very very different style of work and so one of the biggest critique he had for Pakistani style was कि he was like यार मैंने जब भी पाकिस्तानियों के साथ काम करने की कोशिश की है, पाकिस्तानी सॉफ्टवेयर हाउसेस वगैरह के साथ काम करने की कोशिश की है, तो जो हमारा वर्क एथिक है ना, जो स्टाइल ऑफ वर्क एथिक तो एक बात है, जो हमारा स्टाइल ऑफ वर्क है, हर चीज़ व्हाट्सएप के ऊपर हो जाए, कोई स्लैक नहीं यूज़ करना, कोई वर्क लॉगिंग नहीं हो रही, कोई सिस्टम नहीं है, एंड एवरीथिंग इज़ वेरी जुगाड़. लाइक इट्स द सिस्टम है इसके यार, हर चीज़ जब आसान तरीके से जुगाड़ तरीके से हो सकती है तो क्यों उसको प्रॉपरली करना है. हालांकि होता ही है कि जब आप चीज़ों को ट्रैक कर रहे होते हो, जब लाइक यू सेड आप पेपर पे लिख रहे होते हो, इट सीम्स लाइक यार मैं दिन के 8 घंटे के काम करने के बजाय मैं 1 घंटा जो है वो दिन में मैं सिर्फ इन चीज़ों पर ज़ाया कर रहा हूँ. बट बिकॉज ऑफ दैट 1 आवर आपके 7 घंटे बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोडक्टिव हो सकते हैं वर्सेस वो. तो ही वॉज लाइक एंड ही वॉज वर्किंग विद सम ऑफ द टॉप टैलेंट इन पाकिस्तान, सम ऑफ द टॉप सॉफ्टवेयर हाउसेज. बट ही वॉज लाइक यार मेरे लिए काम करना मुश्किल हो गया था, आई हैव टू पुल आउट इवेंचुअली बिकॉज पाकिस्तान में पीपल आर जस्ट लाइक देर वेरी रैंडम, देर जस्ट लाइक बस ठीक है जी अल्लाह तवक्कल हो जाएगा. और हमारे एक्सपीरियंस में भी ये रहा है इन द स्टार्ट, तो बहुत ज़्यादा ये था कि एक्साइटेड हो जाएंगे, पम्प्ड हो जाएंगे, हम कर लेंगे, और फिर आखिर में यही होगा कि नहीं होगा, वो डेडलाइन होगी, पुश हो रहा होगा कि ठीक है किसी तरह वो करके निकाल दें, एंड देन वो इतने टायर्ड हो चुके होंगे कि अब जब अगली चीज़ करनी है तो सडनली देर लाइक यार अब तो बस हो गई है. मेरे एज अगर वही चीज़ प्रोसेस में होती तो वो बड़े सुकून में एक चीज़ कंप्लीट करते, फिर वो अगली चीज़ में सुकून में जा रहे होते. तो 2 सवाल हैं. पहला तो ये कि डू यू थिंक दैट यू बीन एबल टू टीच देम, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ दीज आर यंग किड्स 21, 22, 23, very fresh, very new to the space. And second, do you think, have you seen a change in their productivity as well once all of this sort of boring paperwork was introduced?
Yeah, I would say that it's just lack of experience. I think you give any person, like any lazy person, I consider myself a lazy person, enough projects and enough work, and they themselves will realize कि भाई मेरा मसला ये है कि मैं organized नहीं हूँ. In terms of Pakistan now, definitely I like have let's say Mariam come to me and she says कि oh the system that you've put in place, it's really helping me now. Initially she was the most adverse, like मैंने नहीं करना ये कावी, why are we doing this? But yeah, definitely once they see the benefits of it, दोनों को कंपेयर कर लेते हैं without the system and with the system, they definitely come towards the system and फिर उनकी productivity भी improve होती है definitely.
How's your experience been so far with Pakistan now?
It has been really great actually. It's very exciting.
What's it all about for the audience that doesn't know what's Pakistan now and what's really going on there?
Pakistan अब थोड़ा सा stable हो गया है. पहले तो we had a lot of phases. I have worked with a lot of startups. The one thing that was different in Pakistan now is a lot of startups, they plan a lot and they end up not doing a lot. हमारे साथ थोड़ा सा उल्टा सीन है, हमने बहुत काम कर लिया था and we didn't plan a lot, and now we at this very nice equilibrium कि हम थोड़ी सी planning होती है, थोड़ा सा काम कर रहे होते हैं, and we have a lot of videos under our belt, and some of them are really high value, some of them not that much high value. But
है क्या? Sorry, again, जिसको कुछ भी नहीं पता.
Oh, अच्छा, sorry.
What is Pakistan Now?
Pakistan Now is a digital first journalism company. Let's just put it that way. We primarily focus on young people, and we're trying to bring news and narratives towards young people who are more disconnected with the TV, जिनको TV का format बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं है. I am that kind of person. Like I genuinely watch our content, and especially initially जब बहुत सारे लोग थे वो बनाते थे, I would just wait कि कब वो launch करेंगे अपनी video, तो I'm gonna watch it. So yeah, it's an amazing initiative, and it's doing really well because I was checking the numbers earlier, and I'm really happy with what Pakistan Now is now. And so what do you, I mean, because I feel like अब वो time आ चुका हुआ है alhamdulillah कि we've been able to come up with a product. 3 months ago I was very and I was like I don't know if there is a product there. The philosophy was there but the product wasn't. I think now we have a product, we are solving a problem. How do you feel about it at this point in time? You've been working on Pakistan Now. अब आपका थोड़ा सा scope wider हो गया. You're working on a lot of other projects as well, but Pakistan Now is one of them.
It's been 7 months, I believe.
7 months, yeah.
7 months. How do you feel about Pakistan now?
Pakistan now. It's good. It's really good. Initially, हमारा बहुत ही वो unstable था. We tried really high value, very time consuming content. And then we saw very low value, quick turnover content. So we always wanted to do something in the middle. Like हम ज़्यादा turnover भी ज़्यादा नहीं करना चाहते थे और हम value भी ज़्यादा गिराना नहीं चाहते थे. Now we managed to reach that point. I would prefer like if we can expand this somehow, but for that we need a lot of resources and really good resources. We need we literally want people from two different worlds, like somebody who knows the societal, political aspect of things, and somebody who understands internet. Because since we are digital first, we have to convey it in the language which is digestible by the internet users, right?
Yeah.
So that's very difficult. That's something we struggled with a lot. Like we would find traditionally very smart people, but they just wouldn't know how to communicate.
Very academic हो जाते थे ना वो फिर वो boring हो जाता था. I think the biggest problem in this particular space is right now, I think even demand exists. I think पहले मुझे ये होता था कि शायद maybe the demand isn't there, but I think, and we've seen that with Pivot, for example, कि you have the right sort of conversations and there is definitely an appetite for those conversations. Probably the biggest challenge is finding the talent, जो कि मैं probably कहूँगा 3 चीज़ें जिसको पता हो. पहली चीज़ उसको पता हो कि हो क्या रहा है सोसाइटी के अंदर, नुआंस क्या है इन चीज़ों का. दूसरी चीज़ उसको पता हो क्रिएटिव्स का. सो उसको पता हो कि यार टेक्निकल जो एक्चुअल टेक्निकलिटीज़ हैं कि मुझे वो किस तरह से करना है. तीसरी चीज़ जो है वो आपकी है कि इंटरनेट फर्स्ट होना या वो न्यूज़ साइकिल को समझना कि यार ठीक है, इफ़ आई pause the video at the right time and integrate this meme, it's going to work. And I turn around का मुझे concept हो, मुझे वो चीज़ पता हो. And वो बहुत difficult है वो चीज़. वो वाला talent निकालना, वो वाला talent बनाना, build करना, जिसको ये तीनों aspects पता हो. बेशक वो एक चीज़ में expertise रखता हो, but उसको बाकी चीज़ों की understanding हो ताकि he can work with other creatives and sort of create that middle ground.
I slightly disagree with you at that point. Because it's not those 3 things. The third thing, the technical, I feel that's easily teachable. You sit with somebody, you explain the entire process, and they will be able to understand. This is the process. So technical, a lot of people give a lot of weightage to technical, and I don't give a lot of weightage to technicals. It's easily teachable. We literally have people over here who had 0 experience in technical, and we have managed to build them up.
हाँ, ये बात है. So देखिए, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, you need that talent. बट हाँ, दैट इज़ एन ईजिली सॉल्वेबल थिंग बिकॉज वो आप सिखा सकते हो. आप किसी को और हमारा ये एक्सपीरियंस रहा है कि आप किसी को अगर कोई इफ समवन सेज दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज इजंट रियल, यू कांट चेंज फॉर द लाइफ ऑफ यू, राइट? सो वो चीज़ें बचपन से आ रही होती हैं. वो इंटरेस्ट है ना. आई रिमेंबर स्टार्ट में भी हमने न्यूज़पेपर की सब्सक्रिप्शन लगाई, हमने सबसे कहा कि यार अखबार पढ़े. अगर किसी का अपना इंटरेस्ट इनहेरेंटली इंटरेस्ट नहीं है ना, तो वो नहीं पढ़ेगा. वो आप उसको जितना भी सर मार लें, वो नहीं उसको पढ़ेगा, वो नहीं समझेगा क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा. सो एब्सोल्युटली यस, आई डू एग्री कि वो वाली चीज़ आई थिंक ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट है. थोड़ी सी मैं कॉन्वर्जेशन को फिर से एक दफ़ा फ्लिप करूँगा. यू बीन इन इस्लामाबाद फॉर हाउ मेनी ईयर्स?
आई केम हियर इन 2019, so 3 years.
3 years. Why aren't you going back to Karachi?
I say go back to your country. I like it here in Islamabad. It's nice, it's peaceful, it's quiet. But basically जब COVID start हुआ था, so the previous place I was working at, they had the infrastructure to work remotely.
Right.
तुम सारे वो बल्कि अभी भी वो सारे remotely काम कर रहे थे, shut down their office, they're like remote काम.
Software Technology Park में था ना ये Marriott के साथ?
At Tech, yeah. हाँ. तो इवैक्यूएट ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग में था. अब वो खत्म हो गई बिल्डिंग,
राइट,
एज एन ऑफिस खत्म हो गया, बिल्डिंग वहीं पर ही. सो दे हैड द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर टू डू थिंग्स रिमोटली. सो आई वाज कंप्लीटली अलोन हियर बिकॉज कोविड के टाइम पे एवरीबडी वाज आइसोलेटिंग, कोई किसी को देख नहीं रहा था. सो आई डिसाइड टू गो बैक टू कराची. व्हाट हैड हैपेंड इन कराची वाज, आई थिंक दैट वाज August 2020, लाइक इधर अर्ली अगस्त और एंड ऑफ अगस्त, आई डोंट रिमेंबर.
सैलाब तो नहीं आ गया था
जी. सो मुहर्रम भी चल रहा था, तो हमारे सिग्नल्स भी बंद हुए थे, एज इन फ़ोन सिग्नल्स बंद थे, बिजली चली गई थी, पानी वैसे वाला नहीं आ रहा था और नीचे बहुत खड़ा हुआ था. So for 9 days we were out of power and we were out of water. So literally we would just go to my नानी's place and वहाँ पे फ़ोन चार्ज करके फिर वापस आ जाते थे. इस टाइप के हालत हुए थे.
Right.
And during that time I lost 2 prospective clients because they asked me for a quote and I couldn't get back to them because internet था, computer कुछ भी नहीं था. Then I was pretty disenchanted. I was like, okay, this is really bad and I want to live in Islamabad. So I came back here.
So it's primarily infrastructure. If the infrastructure was better in that city, you would probably be more.
It also has to do with the culture of it. I personally am a very introvert person. So I like the peace and quiet of Islamabad. Normally Karachiites hate Islamabad because it's very...
Yeah. That's why I'm very curious कि आप बैठे हुए हैं यहाँ पर. अगर आपको opportunity दी जाए तब भी आप यहाँ पे बैठे.
I have 2 other friends who are from Karachi, both introverts, and they love Islamabad. And like यहाँ पे सुकून है. So, and you do feel that sukoon. And for a lot of people, that sukoon is very horrifying. They're like, this is scary. Like,
कोई आवाज़ ही नहीं आ रही.
आवाज़ नहीं आ रही. So yeah, I can understand why certain people don't like Islamabad. But it's for me.
Makes sense. अच्छा, एक and we're almost at the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to finish it off very, very soon as well. But I just like to sort of understand beyond Pakistan now as well. You've been here for 7 months. Now you're working on. अब आपको थोड़ा probably पूरी visibility है. पहले तो आपका ये था कि you had a visibility of a startup thing, जो कि बड़ा जाहिर है कि एक startup का हमेशा एक different style होता है of work and वो सारा का सारा. अब आपको overall visibility है, commercial की भी, startup की भी, आपको podcast का भी पता है, बाकी चीज़ों का भी पता है. What is your honest take on everything that we do, how we do it? What's your understanding of it, and how do you feel about this space, 18nine Media generally?
So I obviously I'm a little biased about 18nine Media and it has to do with you as well because you bring this disruptive energy कि like हम वो चीज़ नहीं करेंगे जो सब लोग कर रहे हैं. So I really admire that aspect of you and 18nine Media as a whole. Okay, we are not doing what other people are doing out there, right? We're trying to bring something new, something disruptive, जो पहले शायद नहीं हुई हो पाकिस्तान में. So that's a very admirable trait, which is why I am very excited because every time there's a new project, we're like, oh, we can try this, we can try that. The challenge that we face in 18nine Media is that we are not used to working in a big team. Like most of the people over here, the youngsters, उनकी पहली job है, दूसरी job है, and especially your previous employees, आपके सिर्फ 2 ही employees थे, right? And then the team expanded a lot. Yeah. फिर थोड़ी सी कम हुई, फिर like अब maintain हो रही है. So I think one of the challenges looking at the production team, it's very difficult to manage people because we're not used to working with a lot of people. We're used to working with just 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge that I see. But otherwise, the stuff that we're doing over here is remarkable.
Do you think there's a future for that stuff?
Definitely. Oh my God, you have no idea. So the problem that we initially identified about core idea and execution, उसमें client end पे बड़ा मसला आता है. Generally, when you pitch an idea to a client, and you probably have faced this multiple times, they're not on board with it because it's risky. They're like, oh, why should we
try something new? Like एक चीज़ चल रही है market में, why can't we do that?
It may or may not work, or so the problem at client end is they're not enough risk takers for per se. So what generally happens is like we have to give them proof of concept. Oh, this is what we made. We put it out on the market. एंड जब उस पर रिस्पॉन्स ऑब्वियसली अच्छी चीज़ होती है बिकॉज वी आर ऑल प्रोफेशनल्स है, तो उस पर जब रिस्पॉन्स आता है तो फिर वो बड़ा क्लाइंट खुश होता है, अच्छा मुझे वही चीज़ बना के दो. सो इन दैट मैनर आई थिंक द काइंड ऑफ स्टफ दैट वी डूइंग हियर 18nine Media, द डिसरप्टिव नेचर ऑफ इट, right now it's very disruptive. In 5 years it's going to be mainstream.
Yeah, definitely.
So
and we're already seeing that. I mean, we started a podcast in 2020, almost 2 years होने वाले हैं इसको. And you'd be surprised, उस टाइम पे everybody was like, लोग सर कुछ जा रहे थे कि पागल हो गया ये बंदा,
लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट
लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट, ये क्या बातें कर रहा है. और सच्ची बात है, 2 साल गुजरने के बाद इट्स नॉट लाइक ए शॉर्ट फॉर्मेट जो टिकटॉक बूम था, इट हैज़ गॉटन एनी लेस, इट्स एक्चुअली ग्रोन सिंस देन. बट वाइल दैट हैज़ ग्रोन, मैं कल ही देख रहा था, तकरीबन कोई मैंने 8 पॉडकास्ट तो मैंने देखी हैं जो पाकिस्तान में पॉपअप किए हैं. एंड दिस इज़ जस्ट, आई मीन इट्स जस्ट going through the roof. It's absolutely crazy the way people are responding to podcasts. Very very serious people are now beginning to respond. हमारी pivot के ऊपर
Pivot, yeah.
You know, there are a lot of people who are reaching out themselves now. पहले आपको याद है स्टार्ट में होता था जी पॉडकास्ट क्या होता है, सर इंटरव्यू करना है, अच्छा वो there was always this problem where we had to explain to them कि माइक क्यों लगा हुआ है, हेडफोन्स क्यों
लगे,
and now that's changing. But yes, I mean I feel like कि वो चीज़ वही वाली बात है कि शायद मैं कल ही बैठ के देख रहा था कि एक और पॉडकास्ट मुझे कहीं नजर आई ना, I was like यार ये तो इतनी मेन स्ट्रीम हो रही है कि सडनली that hipster मुज़म्मिल यार कुछ अगला सोचते हैं.
I did podcast before it was cool.
तो वो चीज़ डेफिनेटली yes you're absolutely right कि वो मेन स्ट्रीम होगी.
Yeah, so I have a lot of faith in One8nine Media to answer your question.
Good. I think one of the things that you've identified, and I think I personally, if I were to weigh in, I find really missing. We're not doing anything special. हमने एक छोटी सी चीज़ वो की थी जो कि आपने भी आइडेंटिफाई भी की है कि काफ़ी दफ़ा हम करते क्या है कि हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि हमें नई चीज़ करनी है और वो नई चीज़ जो है वो हमने करनी भी क्लाइंट के पैसे पे ही है. So while we can blame the states all we want, the fact is the state is a businessman in a capitalistic environment, and so the businessman will always be risk averse. One of the things that we try to do is we try to sell. हम constantly, while we're disruptive, I do the head and shoulders dance, no issues at all. The reason for doing that is कि यार जो चीज़ चल रही है, जो क्लाइंट की डिमांड है वो करो, get money in, use that money rather than आप उस पैसे से आप जाके फैंसी चीज़ें ख़रीद के आप फारिग भी हो सकते हैं, या आप उससे अपने डिसरप्टिव शॉक फंड करके प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट्स जनरेट कर सकते हैं. एंड आई थिंक हमारे केस में अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वी बीन एबल टू शो केस दैट मॉडल कि इफ़ यू आर एबल टू क्रिएट द प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट सेट विद डज कम अराउंड इवेंचुअली. दे जस्ट लुकिंग फॉर कि आप एक दफ़ा दिखा दें हो पॉसिबिलिटी है कि नहीं. आई थिंक इफ़ अ लॉट ऑफ क्रिएटिव्स यू स्टार्ट टू यूज़ दिस मॉडल, तो जो हमारी एवोल्यूशन की जब हम बात करें डिज़ाइन में और बहुत सारी चीज़ों में, वो काफ़ी हद तक हमें उसके सोल्यूशंस नज़र आना शुरू हो जाएंगे. समझ भाई, we're at the 1 hour 4 minute mark. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask every guest, and then I'm going to before I ask that question, मैं बार बार आपको सप्लाई की बात कर रहा था और टैलेंट की बात कर रहा था. बहुत कम होता है ऐसा कि यू नो आप एक नई स्पेस के अंदर बंदा चीज़ एक्सप्लोर करता है, उसके अंदर एक एक्सपर्टीज़ बिल्ड करता है. पाकिस्तान में पर्टिकुलरली पीपल आर जनरली, आपका जो तर्ज है वो बड़ा फ़र्क है. लोगों का ये होता है कि यार जहाँ पर मुझे $1000 का कोर्स लेना है वर्सेस मुझे यू नो मैं लोगोस बना के $5000 कमा सकता हूँ, तो दे विल ऑलवेज चूज़ द 5000 वाला लोगो. यू चोज समथिंग डिफरेंट. आपने मेरा ख्याल है थोड़ी लॉन्ग गेम खेलने की कोशिश की. उस लॉन्ग गेम में ज़ाहिर है आपने बहुत ज़्यादा वैल्यू हासिल कर ली, बट एवरीबडी डजंट हैव द स्टेमिना और मे बी द सेफ्टी नेट और वगैरह वगैरह और द इनसाइट एज वेल. डू यू थिंक एट एनी पॉइंट यू माइट बी एबल टू create simplified local language content that could help a lot of these people come on board and learn a lot of what you've learned over the years in basic through courses or stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely need for it, because the need of our is to teach all these people जो मैंने बोला था fundamentals. हालांकि it on the surface of it, it looks very easy. Oh, basic ही तो है, like, basic ही सिखानी है, but it's very inaccessible. वो पहली बात तो वही है, लैंग्वेज वाली बात है कि a lot of these courses are in English, people don't know English, वो समझ में नहीं आता, and then a lot of this is about lack of interest per se, कि आप लोगों का इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, कि वो कहते हैं यार ये क्या चीज़ें तो समझ में नहीं आ रही हमें, like हमें actual technique सिखाओ. Both of these things can be changed if there is good courses out there. Definitely, I think there's a need for it. It's a place that should be explored properly.
Will you be looking into it?
I actually have. I was thinking of starting my own YouTube channel, which I haven't gotten around. उसमें मैंने यही बातें करनी थी about design, about the core ideas, about execution and all that stuff. And I think not in terms of design per se, but because of Pakistan now, अब commentary channel आना शुरू हो गया. And I really like the fact कि shout out to Heather, कि वो अब commentary channel बना रहा है and making that kind of content. So yeah, it's already happening. Not in terms of design per se, but it's already happening in other aspects. And I will definitely explore
that side as well. The last question, as I ask everyone, how do you see you're 30 years old right now? You're going to be 60 in 30 years. You're going to be at the peak of your power.
Oh my God.
How do you see Pakistan of 2050, 30 years from now?
So I have been a very cynical person in the past, for multiple and idealistic at the same time. Over the years, I've become more and more realistic, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of changes which I didn't expect ke Pakistan mein hongi. A lot of them are political in nature. A lot of them are societal in nature. And एक चीज़ मैंने बड़ी constant देखी है, that is technology. Technology has the power to disrupt society, और and I have a lot of faith in technology कि जैसे उनकी penetration बढ़ती है, आपके uses change होते हैं. So I am very, optimistic about Pakistan and the trajectory that Pakistan is heading because of the penetration of technology. So very hopeful actually. So I see it in multiple ways in terms of, let's say, economics. I think अभी जो आपकी freelancer industry है, उसको government recognize करती है, उसको facilitate करने की कोशिश कर रही है.
Right.
So I didn't expect that to happen at all.
Yeah.
And it's happening. So and the kind of content initially क्या होता था कि I wouldn't consume any Pakistani content because I thought कि वो अच्छा नहीं बनता. And now it is like really good किस्म का content out there. So I'm very hopeful about the future of Pakistan.
Sarmad bhai, thank you so much for coming in and for sharing all the insight and for taking the time out. I wish you all the best, and by proxy of it, I wish myself all the best. No, but I wish you separately from Pakistan now in One8nine Media, wherever you go. I know that you're one of the top talents in your particular space, and I know that you're going to do some remarkable things, whatever you do and wherever you go. So I'm excited to see कि किस तरीके से आप particularly motion graphics industry को किस तरीके से आप बनाते हैं पाकिस्तान में, because I feel like अभी तो industry exist ही नहीं करती. So yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And for all of you guys, thanks so much for watching. अगर आपको एपिसोड पसंद है, आप दोस्तों यार से जरूर शेयर करिएगा. YouTube वाले लाइक बटन दबाएंगे, एंगेजमेंट बढ़ेगी, तो हमारी कन्वर्सेशन पहुंचेगी. Facebook वाले TBT कम्युनिटी ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं, जहाँ पर हम डिफरेंट फीडबैक भी लेते हैं, आर्टिकल शेयर करते हैं, गेस्ट रिकमेंडेशंस भी लेते हैं. सो यू कैन जॉइन दैट एज वेल. ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म वाले सब्सक्राइब बटन दबाएंगे, आने वाले एपिसोड्स का नोटिफिकेशन मिलेगी. इसी के साथ साथ इजी पैसा जैस कैश यहाँ पे कहीं पे आ रहा है. यू कैन सपोर्ट द चैनल इफ यूड लाइक. वी एक्सेप्ट एनीथिंग फ्रॉम ₹1 to as much as you'd like. It's a thought that counts. इसी के साथ साथ हमने नई पॉडकास्ट स्टार्ट की, तो खैर इतनी नई नहीं रही, लेकिन इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. इट्स कॉल्ड द पाकिस्तान पिवट. द लिंक इज डाउन बिलो. We talk to different policy makers, government officials. We started off with the federal government, and we're now reaching out to other parties as well. We recently did Mifta Ismail. We're going to be having a lot of conversations with leaders from two of the major opposition parties, People's Party and PMLN. So you can check that out as well. But anyways, this was Muzamil Hasan. You are watching Thought Behind Things, the second last episode of season 2. We're going to be coming back, inshallah, very, very soon with season 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.